Syria looks set to face a military onslaught as British media report that warplanes and transport jets are being deployed at the UK's air base in Cyprus. The spot is just 100 kilometers from the Syrian coastline and is expected to become a launch point for a US-led campaign against the Assad government. RT's Lucy Kafanov told us the details.
According to news reports, Britain and the U.S. could be inching towards a potential military attack against the regime of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad after Foreign Secretary William Hague said that all other options have failed over the past year. Now, we have to keep in mind that no country has confirmed or ordered any such attack. It's really more of an escalation in rhetoric at this point, but it is rhetoric that is being backed by flexing of a bit of military muscle, perhaps to highlight the seriousness of the situation. Now, the Guardian newspaper reported that warplanes and military transporters have begun arriving at a British air base on Cyprus, which is less than 100 miles from the Syrian coast. The U.S., meanwhile, has F-16 fighter jets and Patriot missile batteries in Jordan. And last week, we learned that the U.S. Navy has sent a fourth warship armed with ballistic missiles into the eastern Mediterranean Sea. Turkey also hosts an air base that is used by the United States and the British Royal Air Force. Now, France, another key player in the possible conflict, has its jet fighters stationed in the United Arab Emirates. Now, again, at this point, it is unlikely that Western powers would be able to get a United Nations mandate for international military action over Syria, with Russia and China certain to veto. But on Monday, the foreign ministers of Britain, France, Turkey said in separate interviews that they would be prepared to back potential U.S. action outside of the parameters of a UN mandate. Well, the intense international pressure comes on the heels of reports of a chemical weapons strike that may have killed over 1,000 people in Syria. A convoy of UN inspectors came under fire on Monday as it made its way to Damascus to investigate the area. Now, the inspectors were able to reach the site to collect the samples and interview witnesses, but they were only able to stay for half an hour. So incredibly difficult circumstances for them to confirm anything at all. Now, the United Nations, the UK, the US, Germany, France, and Turkey and others strongly condemned this apparent chemical attack, saying it was likely done by the Assad regime in the Ghouta suburb in eastern Damascus. Secretary of State John Kerry had accused the Syrian government of, quote, indiscriminate slaughter of civilians and of cynical efforts to cover up its responsibility for, quote, a cowardly crime.
While investigators are gathering additional evidence on the ground, our understanding of what has already happened in Syria is grounded in facts, informed by conscience, and guided by common sense.
Well, certainly Russia's position has been and continues to be that no force should be used, that diplomacy should be the tool here. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov had warned against prejudgment about the use of chemical weapons, saying that the U.S. and other countries had essentially mistakenly drawn conclusions by raising the possibility of military strikes. Now, he also said that intervention by the U.S. and its allies without a UN resolution would be a, quote, very grave violation of international law and risk repeating past mistakes. Take a listen.
Many key players started to take sides and act based on the principle of winner takes all, betting on those who they saw as potential winners. But then the winners turned into losers again. This is an example of so-called ad hoc policies, as opposed to logical and integral policies. You cannot, for example, declare war on one regime because you personally don't like the dictator in power there, and be friends with the dictator in another country.
The rebels are unlikely to participate in any sort of international meetings. We also heard that the U.S. might drop out of a diplomatic meeting it was scheduled to have with Russia on this issue. So diplomacy certainly is the path that Russia is pushing for, but at this point it's quite unclear how the situation will actually play out. Very tense indeed.
A popular revolution against a brutal regime or a proxy war stirred up by the foreign powers. Analysis in Washington studio has been delving into the causes of the conflict that's been raging in Syria for over 2 years, claiming countless lives. Listen.
First of all, everybody wants a political solution and everybody wants this crisis to end. I think the Syrian people are incredibly tired. But I think that if arms are flowing to Syria, whether we like it or not, whether the United States or the West arms or not, and they're going to different groups and sometimes not the right people at all, and has opened the room for extremists to sort of come into the fray of this conflict. So it's imperative that we arm the right people. And the right people are the ones that defected from the army, from the regime's army, because they didn't want to shoot innocent children. They didn't want to shoot their own people. And now as we see lifeless bodies dying and lifeless bodies wrapped in shrouds in areas where the regime did not allow people to go in, these are not things that we can sit down and study.
Let's get Brian in here. Brian, what were you going to say?
The United States government has been on a course to overthrow the government in Syria because it's an independent nationalist government. Syria was formerly a colony. They did the same thing in Libya. They bombed Libya in 2011. They invaded Iraq in 2003. We see war after war after war. What's the real reason for the war? It's not because one government has a better or worse human rights record. It's not about chemical weapons. The Middle East possesses 2/3 of the world's oil. The U.S. wants to show that it's going to control this resource-rich part of the world. The Bush administration and the Obama administration are doing the exact same thing, using chemical weapons as a pretext to carry out an illegal act of aggression against a sovereign country. The people in the United States, by the way, by a margin of 90% oppose any military strikes on Syria.